one of the first things that struck me as I was reading a bunch of stuff last night was this Steve Kerr quote about Steph Curry. And we've had extensive conversations on the show about what the Warriors are going to look like this year, what Steph Curry is going to look like this year, if they're actually going to care. And my sort of thing has always been like I just feel like between Steve Kerr, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry, those are multi-time champions. It's going to be really hard for them to just sort of, sit this one out and not really care about, once competitive basketball starts up again, the competitive juices get flowing. And I think Steph Curry is for some people is like a sneaky MVP pick just because, he's going to be their main scorer. He's going to be the guy that's probably going to put up a bunch of ridiculous numbers. And I don't know if we're going to essentially see the Steph Curry that we saw in the 2 MVP seasons before KD kind of got there and took most of the shine away from Steph. But we have sound from Steve Kerr talking about Steph Curry and why he thinks that he's going to be at his peak physically and mentally. So let's hear from Steve Kerr here.
I'm not looking for anything different than what he's done for 5 years. But what he's done is pretty special. Two MVPs and perennial top 5 player. He's had an incredible camp. To me, he's at his peak physically, mentally. He's seen every defense that people have thrown at him now during his career, and he's ready to have a great year.
So peak physically and mentally, guys. I don't know, I'm one of those guys that I do think Steph Curry is going to have a big season, but I kind of look at this and I go, I don't know if we'll ever see the Steph Curry again that we saw a couple years ago in those 2 MVP seasons. Like, he was so magical. He was so unstoppable. It seems like, and you can tell me, it seems like the league hasn't necessarily caught up to him a little bit, but has sort of figured out ways at how to stop him, be a little bit more physical. So when you hear Steve Kerr's comments, Ryan, I'll start with you. Do you think that that's true? Do you think we'll see Steph at his peak this year?
I do, Steve. I disagree with you. I was at a Warriors training camp about a week and a half ago, and I'd be interested to get Scal's perspective because Scal was a coach in Golden State. He was an assistant coach on Mark Jackson's staff with the Warriors. But Scal, did you ever find yourself just mesmerized watching Stephen Curry shoot the ball? Because I sat there for half an hour, maybe even close to an hour after practice, waiting for some of the front office guys from the Warriors. We were going to have some meetings and talk shop, and I felt like I could have sat there all day, or at least as long as Steph Curry wanted to keep shooting the basketball, just with how insane it is to watch him shoot, especially when there's no defense. I mean, we see what he does in games when he's heavily guarded, but to watch him shoot in workouts, it seems like he almost gets bored with some of the shots, so he just starts creating new release angles and step backs and sidesteps. So I'd be interested, Scal, was there ever a time you find yourself when you're supposed to be coaching the guy, just mesmerized watching Steph Curry shoot the basketball?
Yeah, I said my first interview when I got back into the media business, right? So I'm not going to be coaching the Warriors anymore. And I thought Steph Curry was going to win an MVP, and I got laughed at by everybody. You look at the comments after on the story, and I just said, this guy is like another level of a guy. He's a great person, which that term can be so overblown in the NBA, but he kind of gets the NBA. He never gets too high. He never gets too low. He always does his work. He's stronger than people think. He's quicker than people think. When you play pickup with him, he always figures out a way to win the game. If you go watch, it's 9-3, game to 11. He doesn't tap out. He just goes off. And I always thought that he's a special, special guy. But I'm with Ceruti a little bit on this one, Ryan. The NBA has caught up to Steph Curry. They were an anomaly, and he was an anomaly. The idea, just think about even guarding guys on the pick and roll and how great. Back in the day, you would never blitz a guy from three-point land. You would just, hey, if a guy made a three contested, you would tip your hat to him. He changed the way everyone has guarded, and not just him. Everybody's like that. And bigs are now drafted based on can they come up the floor and guard guys. But before, there was probably 28 bigs in the NBA that couldn't get up and guard Steph Curry on a switch from three-point range. And so the game has changed a lot. The players have changed a lot. Everyone's accustomed to guarding him. So because of all that, I can't imagine him having an MVP type of season. But that's not taking away from anything that he does. To me, he is another level of an NBA type of player.
Yeah, so I mean, he's 31. He's going to be 32 in March during the season. That let's not pretend that that's super old, but he is a few years away from like I said, those 2 MVP seasons. And I don't know, it just seems like the magic has sort of gone away, and I think a lot of that had to do with the setup he was in with Kevin Durant. Obviously, there was less asked of him. He kind of took more of a Robin compared to a Batman role, maybe in those first 2 championship run years. Obviously, the one that they lost when they won 73 games, though. Why do you? Do you think? Is it more his physical limitations, Scal, or
No.
is it more you think it's the league? You think the league has just sort of figured out how we can sort of neutralize this guy?
Okay, so it's a combination. When you're LeBron or Giannis or whoever, or Embiid or Ben Simmons or like all the guys that physically dominate the NBA, there's only so much they can do. At the end of the day, you're stuck with like this guy just overwhelms us physically. Steph Curry has to win every game or be dominant in every game with just skill. And if you can address that over the course. It's not, he doesn't do things physically, even though he's blessed physically more than people understand. He's in great shape. He's stronger than people think. But it's just the NBA knows how to guard him now. Like when I took the Warrior job, what really made me take that job was watching him against the San Antonio Spurs. They flashed a picture to Greg Popovich. Popovich had a look on his face, and then he made a comment after the game. The look on his face was, wait a minute here. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. Everything I've done for the last 20 years and everything that's worked. And I'm never a coach that overreacts to a certain play. Like when Kobe hesitates, step back, spin, dribble, makes a shot. Popovich wouldn't overreact to that. He's questioning in his mind with this look that he had on the sideline. And the look was, wait a minute. I'm doing everything I can right now. This guy's like lighting us up. Do I have to change everything I know about coaching to stop him? And ultimately, they ended up winning that series because the Warriors were not there yet. But I thought the Warriors were going to be – I thought when I got there, we would win a championship that year. They had everything. The NBA was behind the 8 ball. LeBron, when he went from Miami to Cleveland, he was geared up to try to beat the San Antonio Spurs. He had no idea the Warriors were coming. They were off everyone's radar. And the NBA, they play catch-up really quick.